I also that's what we're going to meet from. Okay. Office meeting. I got one meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's a 2-hour meeting. 2 to 4. Good. So that's good.
Do you think it could be a September?
Be better. Find me a call. What? Find me a call. I'll buy you. Okay. And ask so we don't get that. And later it's gonna be more.
But I know you're
Who's that with? We'll get on, I'll jump on for a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, newly engaged.
Your birthday too, so happy. There we go. Everyone can wear it.
So
In each other's world. I see him in New York.
Oh, yeah. This guy owes me $20.
All right, we're gonna get started in about 2 seconds. We're having a little technology challenges after we upgraded our whole system and now somehow it downgraded on us, but we'll get that resolved. So happy New Year, happy Tuesday, first town hall. Can these guys, you guys hear us on Zoom? Samantha?
Yes, we can hear
us
you.
on Zoom? Okay,
Yes.
cool. That's John, I think. So again, happy New Year. Excited to have everyone here. We got an amazing special guest. She'll be here, I'm sure, shortly. Many of you know Letrice. Just want to acknowledge, of course, we definitely had a challenging second half of the year, and I'll share the numbers for the year in a moment. But I'm always a big believer, for anyone that knows me at all, is like focus on what you can control. We can't control the conditions of the market, but we can control our actions and our efforts every single day. And no matter what's going on around us, no matter how challenging it may be, there's always opportunity if we stay disciplined, consistent, and purposeful in our efforts. And it's a great way to distinguish ourselves relative to our competitors and our peers and what have you. So to me, it really is the obstacle, truly is the opportunity, and finding the silver lining in everything is how I choose to live my life. And I hope you guys choose to do the same. So with that said, I wanted to kick off by talking about, prioritization. I'm a huge believer in like focus on what matters most. Work hard is really, really important, right? Effort. But equally important is working smart and figuring out where you're going to get the greatest return on your efforts and what are the select activities that are going to give you that return on your effort. You can be extremely busy and not be particularly purposeful and not get very far. So can you go to the next slide? Focus on the precious few. It's like go small to get big, or the one thing with many narrow and deep. I'm a huge proponent of all of those things. And if you look at the top achievers and performers in anything, whether business, sports, entertainment, they are really, really good at their unique superpower. And largely they delegate everything else. And if you want to be extraordinary, that to me is a recipe for tremendous success, right? Staying focused and acting on the things that matter most, striking the right balance with being open-minded, receptive to learning, growing, and evolving, no matter how successful you are, which means having a level of self-awareness and as I say, open-mindedness, and yet at the same time striking that balance between staying in your lane and not being distracted by all the extraneous noise. And it's hard to strike that balance, but I think it's important at least to have a level of self-awareness that you should be striving to strike that balance, right? Creating a thoughtful decision-making compass, your values, be clear in your values. Like, what are your values? What is your purpose? Hopefully your purpose is something bigger than yourself, such that there gives you a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability to others, because when that's the case, when you don't feel like it, you will much more readily do it regardless, right? Because there's many times we're not going to feel it, right? It enables you to be decisive and use your precious time up, right? I think being decisive is so critical. When you're crystal clear in your purpose and you have a plan and you know your values, you're going to be much more effective at being decisive and saying yes to what matters most and no to everything else. Any comments or thoughts on this first slide? All right, next one. And again, I touched on it a moment ago, clarity of purpose. Having a clear purpose is, to me, is the foundation of a life by design, right? And hopefully it's about giving and creating value for other people, right? You'll be rewarded for that. When you're focused on creating value for others, the money is just a natural byproduct. Again, I very much live my life that way. And it's been a great formula for success, and I'm always striving to improve upon that, right? Naturally your priorities are naturally drowned out by the extraneous distractions. When you are so clear in your purpose and so committed to it, it does naturally drown out everything else because you know what's important and you know that everything else is not, right? Refrain from comparing yourself to others, but learn from them that which you can apply to your own unique journey, right? And that gets back to that balance between being open-minded and aware of what's going on around you, and at the same time being focused on your unique path, right? We so often, it's human nature to compare ourselves to others. And the reality is you're not seeing the full picture when you're comparing yourself to others. You're only seeing a fraction of the picture, right? And that can be very distracting, can be demoralizing, can be demotivating. So learn from others, but learn from others that which you can apply to your purpose and your journey. And again, none of this is necessarily easy. It just takes practice. It takes awareness. Focus on what you can control, right? Again, what I said earlier, don't be consumed with the mission of others because it stifles creativity. It can be demoralizing. And one of my fundamental beliefs is like life is not fair. And the sooner we acknowledge that and accept that and make the most with what we have and recognize that it's more than enough to accomplish anything we're committed to. And no one said it was going to be easy. We're going to go much further with that philosophy and embracing that. And again, sometimes not always easy, but nevertheless, a great starting point. Who wants to, someone, come on. Yes, Heidi.
This just makes me laugh so hard. It's all the same stuff, but it's just, so the comparing yourself to others thing, it's like a terrible habit. And I do it a lot.
And you're not alone.
And
At all.
and it's so silly. And also the focusing on what you can control. So you can't, you don't have a lot of control, but there's something that you definitely can't control, and it's the past.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great, yeah. So many of us are like, oh, what if this, what if that? Like, again, one of my fundamental, I don't have regrets about it. Doesn't mean that in hindsight, I might not have tried to do them differently, but the mistakes we make, the errors we make, that's what got us to where we are. Sometimes they're the best learning opportunities we could ever have. And all that energy you spend on, you can't unwind it. So why even try?
I just
you know?
had one. Like,
right.
I bumped into someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. The
But
question is, ask yourself, what are you going to do about it now? moving
well,
forward?
it's like play a long game.
Right.
Who are those people you need to call now?
Yeah. And what could you perhaps have done differently moving forward? That's the key. It's like, don't like harbor the past and so many people beat themselves up over that. They lose so much time and energy and anxiety over that. It's just not productive.
By the way, she doesn't talk like that. I was just annoyed.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to give us some thoughts?
I mean, I think that, we all live probably somewhere where you get mailers from other realtors. So, and if you live somewhere long enough, you see like who's marketing in your neighborhood. And, there's a lot of the people out there that are very, like Ben and Zach, I live in their farm. I get mailers from them all the time. They're doing what they need to be doing. So whenever you get one, you're always like, well, I should be, doing another one, or doing this, or So I think it's good because it makes you, reevaluate what you're doing.
Competition is
You don't need
phenomenal.
to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, you just need, this is a business of just contacting people. So, the more contacts you make for people.
It's consistency and it's action and execution, right? We can sit and think about all the things we should do. What are you going to do about it, right? What are you going to do about it? That's the question when you find yourself. That's what I say to myself. What am I going to do about it? I get disappointed a lot. I make a lot of mistakes. I don't win all the time. And then my question is, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do differently moving forward, right? That's what it's all about, guys. And it is what Heidi said, playing the long game, right? If you want to be great at anything, it is about playing the long game. The shortcut is being disciplined and consistent. That is the shortcut. All right, last one. The no's give you more yeses, right? So again, it's like narrow and deep. Your ability to say no. Again, not easy, right? We are social people, and particularly real estate agents tend to be even more social. We're in this business of relationships, right? And we want to say yes to everything and everyone. And the reality is that's not a great recipe for success, right? You've got to know, again, when you're clear in your purpose, you're going to know when to say no to certain people or certain things or certain circumstances. And quite frankly, it's a lot of it's just in the delivery, right? You can say no respectfully, tactfully, and that creating those boundaries is essential. If you continue to say yes to everything, all you're going to do is fracture your time and dilute yourself significantly, right? I always say the definite, being a jack of all trades is a recipe for mediocrity. It is. It doesn't mean you can't have and shouldn't have diverse interests and natural curiosity, but the ability and the will to say no is absolutely critical to being extremely successful. And again, having that clarity of purpose gives you that opportunity to say no. And leverage, right? I'm a big believer in that. Like, if you earn the right to delegate to me, right? When you're a new agent, I use that as like you have to sort of just for the short term likely be a jack of all trades, right? And then you'll start to figure out what you do really well. You start to generate some business, and then you've earned the opportunity to delegate some of the marketing, some of the administrative stuff, whatever that may be, some of the CRM stuff. If that's not of interest to you or in your strengths. But you earn the right to delegate. If you want to be extraordinary, once again, at anything, you're going to have to do a ton of delegating, right? And that's how you create leverage. So, yes.
So, Michael had just said something about it's hard to do in this business. And then you mentioned about newer agents. I would even say, not even just for the newer agents, but for some of us seasoned agents, and it's maybe not, I would change the word delegate. Because if you don't have the expertise in a certain asset class and and you have a client that says, hey, can you help me with this type of a deal? If you don't know how to do it for your own sake, you should say no. And instead of delegating, maybe you're referring it. Maybe you're
partnering. Delegating.
So it is, right?
Yeah.
So but maybe just using it a different word so people can understand and grasp it in a different way.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to do it, refer it to somebody else. Partner with somebody else that
Referring
has
is
that
delegating to me. Yeah,
right.
yes, yeah.
So we're splitting hairs, but
Yeah.
Again, delegate, especially if you're new, like, who am I to delegate? You
Yeah.
said you
Yeah.
earn the right to delegate.
Yeah.
You can automatically have the right to refer and to partner with somebody. You just have to ask and you have to understand when to say no, which
Yeah.
is going to be a lot of times if you're new or if you just don't have that expertise.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on come on, nobody? Brandon?
Well, my take is, I think no is equally powerful as a yes. In LA, we're in such a diverse market, and you don't know necessarily who the agent is on the side a lot of times. So there's a lot of it's good to know all the different cultures and what types of communication will work well or will get you farther along the transaction or not. Like I've learned even in dealing with certain cultures, like if you establish a firm no, and it may take 3 no's in the same sentence, it stops there. But if you give a little bit, if it's a no with not a lot of confidence, maybe, once it's a maybe, you're pretty much done. But if you stick to the firm no, it stops the whole discounting conversation simply where I see a lot of the
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a cultural mentality. I grew up in LA, so I've grown up in the diverse town of DC. So I knew just growing up in LA, like sometimes I'll take a chance. I'll say, sorry, no, you can't do that legally. We're regulated. You have to hear it 3 times, and then it just stops. And then never hear that as a form of objection. And then everyone just moves on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're being tested, but you don't necessarily want to like give in just because you're feeling that pressure.
We got creating boundaries, guys.
Yeah.
Never easy, but absolutely critical to being very successful. Yep. Jack.
I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts and your thoughts as well on the flip side of that, on the beauty in saying yes at certain times and knowing when to say yes and take on a challenge that maybe is pushing you into a discomfort zone or possibly a feeling of imposter syndrome, which could just mean that you're actually growing. Because even, as a new agent, I found myself in situations where those have led to some incredible changes in growth and opportunity and deals close because I said, yeah, I'm gonna go for it, I'll get resourceful, and I'm gonna figure this out, you know?
I love that, first of all, like, I'm a huge believer in limitless possibilities, right? And just, I think we're all have infinite potential if we're willing to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone. So I come back to, how do you differentiate? It comes back to what's your purpose, and like, do you think this endeavor, this person, whatever you're saying yes or no to, is gonna help advance you there? And if so, by all means, take calculated risk and step out of uncertainty and go for it. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that. But I think when the no's are to like distractions and things that are not priorities or not perceived to be priorities, right? Sometimes you have to experiment a little bit, right? Again, calculated risk. If you don't, especially when you're newer in the business and you're not as involved in your career, doesn't mean you know, then you're gonna have to experiment, or you should experiment to some degree. So it comes back to like the context of the situation, and that, but by all means, like saying yes to something that you think could lead to something extraordinary. Don't play it safe. I'm not a believer in playing it safe at all, you know? Yeah, love that. Great point. Any other,
If I could
Jared,
just
yeah.
piggyback off
Yeah.
of that, I mean, I was just wrote this down this morning, it's so crazy because you're talking about, I was reminding myself that it's okay to connect through being authentic. I'm fully embracing vulnerability. I've got this willingness to ask for help. I've got to have the willingness to breathe through it sometimes, because you forget to do that.
Yeah.
And the willingness to kind of trust this process and find out that you're gonna be okay. And I'm finding like the more vulnerable that I am, the more that I'm connecting with the people in my sphere, and it's been great. Like, I've been trying to pretend that I knew it all. I had to let that go, and now I'm just finding more opportunity. It's been awesome. I feel supported, and it's great. So
Yeah. Love that, Jerry. And Jet, just that you bring, I mean, that's the heart and soul of this office, quite frankly, is that we can have these kinds of conversations, be vulnerable and be honest and authentic. And doesn't exist most places elsewhere in any industry, and certainly in our industry. So, you know, very much, you know, a compliment and, you know, an honor, use my words here, to you guys that we've created this, you know, and I take a lot of pride in that. I'm very grateful for it. So, thank you. And I think the last quote there, last slide, and I think this says it very well. When you have too many priorities, right, you effectively have no problems. I love that. And I think that's, you know, I mean, that's the reality, right? So narrow and deep. I mean, Gary Keller wrote a book on the one thing, right? That's taking it to an extreme, right? So we often have these huge to-do lists. Well, you know, that's okay, but like focus and prioritize that to-do list, because they're no longer priorities if there's too many of them, right? So awesome. Okay, thank you guys for great conversation. Next one. And look, I'm going to share in a moment how we ended the year, but we are going very strong in light of the market that we're in. And I always, you know, I'm not going to name every name. I'll always take a lot of pride in how many different names are on there, like how many people are closing deals in this office. And that's very much, I love that. That's very inspiring. So pretty amazing, you know, let's get everyone. And I can tell you, I don't mean it like I'm not a gloom and doom person at all, but you know, I know what goes on in the other offices, and it is very different now than it was a year ago. Very different in terms of production. And I'm gonna let Brandon speak about that in a moment too, but I know like the financials of the Keller Williams offices, and you know, you'll see it next slide, but in fact, maybe perfect. Well, let's acknowledge Cannon Hills. We have in-house escrow, Haley, Shirley, Zach. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Yep. And the next one is so yeah. So why I'm talking about this? You know, we $143 of profit share, virtually nothing. We broke even in December. We were like the only office that broke even, like almost of all of Keller Williams in this whole area. Okay, everyone lost money. Okay, I just want to be very real. Okay, again, we ended up being 34th in the country of 826 offices in profitability for the year. So I give us made number one in California. So 105 offices. So California also is, you know, its own unique animal, right? It's almost its own country, and the competitive landscape, particularly in LA and San Francisco, other than maybe Manhattan, is like nowhere else. I mean, our competitors, no names being pointed out, some of them lose money hand over fist. That's what we have to compete with, right? I have to compete with people being offered, a couple $100,000 signing bonus, right? How sustainable is that? We'll see. How long they stay in business, we'll see. But nevertheless, I take a lot of pride in what we're doing here, and all of you guys should, because it's all of your efforts, right? So, you can see we ended the year taking 740 listings. We closed almost 1,200 units, almost 100 a month for the year, relative to a very ambitious goal of 1,400. We didn't obviously hit it. This is where we ended. As a percent of our goals, we had extremely lofty goals. You can see we did $1.76 billion of closed volume relative to what we were hoping to do, over $2 billion. We'll get there soon enough. Company dollar, which is the commissions the office received, $4.2 million relative to a goal of 4.7. We profit shared over $500,000, 512. We ended up profit sharing in 2021 about 750,000. So definitely a step backward, but nevertheless number one in California and top 35 in the country. And you can see December of 2022, this past month, relative to December of 2021, we still closed 90 deals last month. I mean, that's some really good. That's elite status in the country, guys. And we barely were profitable. We also had extremely high costs. I'm just going to get real. We did. It's hard for you guys to understand what that means. We did $278,000 of company dollar. The whole region, the LA coastal region, did less company dollar. I think there were like 7 offices than we did. How do you like that? All right. So we still were extreme. 90 deals is extremely impressive for a December and this kind of year. So great year. Not where we wanted to land, but then again, there were circumstances beyond our control. We focused on our efforts, and I think we have a lot to be grateful for and proud of. So. Any questions on any of that? Pretty straightforward. Okay, cool. Top agents and teams for January. So I'm going to go through the names. At number 1 individual. Oh, sorry, for December. Thank you. Sorry. Joe Scott. I don't know if Joe's listening, but Joe arguably has more positive energy than Joe, and I don't want to get too personal, but Joe lost his dad on Christmas Day. He also is expecting a child, like he found that out, like a week later. So a little bit of mixed emotions. Joe is such a great guy, wears his heart on his sleeve. He's comes to flow coaching all the time. He's just such a great contributor. So Joe, I don't know if you're listening, but congratulations. Amit, phenomenal. Thomas Mann, Samantha, I think is on the call. Great job, Samantha. I see her in the corner. Batia, amazing. Batia's just all in, very committed. JJ, great to see you there. Blake, a relatively new agent, doing extremely well. Paris, I know that guy right there, Mr. Michael Rosales, and Cam. So great. Team Park, the Suarez team, James and his crew, and Mark, who's here all the time, the British guy. I don't know where he is now. They're great. Most of you may know Mark. He's such a good guy. Belly Crackle and now Glick. Those guys are always top producers. The partners guys were just here. They escaped when they're getting recognized. Shia, Morgan, and Dario and the rest of their crew. Arnash and Michael Golian, great job, and the Gavin team. So great. I also want to point out for those that saw my social media posts, we had 6 agents / teams part of the LA Magazine All Stars, which is a pretty elite group. MS Property Partners, Jeff Yarbrough, Lee Ziff, Melissa, and Michael Eisenberg. So give these guys a break. As I say that, not one of them is on here, which is very interesting, which I think, again, to the diversity of who's closing deals. Not one of those, right? Not one of them is on the month, which I think is a great tribute to this office. Yeah. Great. Anything anyone wants to say about any of that? All right, cool. So family reunion, that is our annual convention. It happens to be in a place that, where is it this year, Serena?
Here in Anaheim.
Yes, so it's our annual convention. It's once a year. It rotates cities. It happens to be in Anaheim this year. There's like 6 cities it rotates. That can actually, the reason it's these 6 cities, those 6 cities are the only ones that can like handle 20,000+ agents. I highly encourage anyone and everyone to attend Family Reunion. It is a game changer in terms of the knowledge, the learning, the networking, the fun, all of it. I mean, I always say every top producer virtually in the country, it's a non-negotiable to go to a Family Reunion because it's a great business decision, right? And here you don't have to pay for a plane. You may not choose to pay for a hotel because you can commute. So I highly encourage anyone and everyone to be there. It's on the 18th. It's basically Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in Anaheim. I will be there. Who is already committed to going? Diane, Austin, Heidi, Michael, Letrice. If you have any questions, let us know. And the fact that it's in our backyard, I mean, we should have a lot of people. And there's still tickets available. It's not inexpensive, but it's worth every penny. I think it's $1,400, $1,399, $1,200, $1,300. Okay. And believe me, it'll give you a great return on your investment. I promise you. Anything else on that? Austin, anything you'd share on Michael on Family Reunion?
Just so whoever goes will probably have a dinner.
Yes. Hosted by us. So if that's not a little incentive, we will.
And it's fun, and it's a great rah-rah. And so if you like Kool-Aid, you're definitely gonna get a lot of that here. But if you don't like Kool-Aid, look, you can still take it in doses, small doses.
You get to see new technology, you get to see what they're working on, what the company.
State of the
you know,
company.
There's something to be said. We went to Keller Williams headquarters in Austin a couple of months ago, and you know, it's
For a different event,
a
but
different
yes.
event, but there's something to be said about being around like-minded, people from around the country, which this is like a crack.
It really shows you possibilities, guys, that coming back to what Jeff said, you will see people doing things that are really, quite frankly, extraordinary. And you'll see that those things are possible. They'll share with you very transparently how they did it, right? And one of the other big pieces that I'm taking a look at of the page of the Robert Howell book is that we take for granted we are Beverly Hills agents. People look up to like Beverly Hills, like, wow. And from a referral standpoint, there's a tremendous opportunity to build relationships with Keller agents elsewhere that will refer you business. I'm telling you, that is worth the cost of admission alone if you're engaging and you build those relationships. That's a tremendous platform to do that. I'm telling you that. I've heard so many times people getting great referrals out of just the conventions that we have.
Yeah, as small as Beverly Hills is typed on the name badges that we all have, everybody still sees it. Yeah, they see it, and they want to talk to you. So if you're in a rut, if you're new and you don't know how to, you just don't know what to do, like go to this. You'll see, you'll meet and speak with all these different people, and those ideas that they share with you, as long as it sparks something within yourself, then it's way to go.
And how it's, because I take for granted how it's basically laid out. There are a couple of big events where everyone attends, like Gary Keller does the State of the Market, State of the Union, the Vision. And then there are most of the rest of it is breakout sessions. So you have a whole menu of things that you choose to go do based on that time slot, based on your level of experience, based on your interests, what have you. And it's basically top producing agents on the panel sharing with you best practices. And there are people doing 500 units a year, 1,000 units. I mean, it's really pretty phenomenal. So you get to pick and choose what you're going to. There's commercial stuff. And the other thing that Austin pointed out, and this is a broader conversation, but Command, our tech platform, which we've had now for probably 5 or 6 years, that we spent well over $1 billion creating. We're the only company in the industry that has built their own tech platform. Every other company has bought off the shelf from a tech company and branded it themselves. We're the only ones that built it from scratch internally. With that said, it's gone through a lot of challenges in full transparency. And now it's at a point where it's very, very robust and functional. And there's a major emphasis on taking Command to the next level. So I'm telling you, if you're not using Command now, I highly encourage you to start using it, because it's only going to get stronger. And it's going to be a huge point of distinction and competitive advantage for Keller Williams agents. And that will be a big part of Family Reunion for sure. So I encourage that, whether you attend Family Reunion or not, you'll learn a lot about it there. Any other questions around family reunion?
Is it gonna be offered digitally? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So it says February 18th to 21st. The last day is not really. The
Yeah, so
21st.
it's basically Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. 21st, like inspirational breakfast, which is nice, but it's, yeah, the 21st is not really.
If you're thinking about getting a hotel, you really could just do it for the 18th and 19th and leave.
That's what I'm doing.
Leave
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Or you can commute.
Yeah.
And if we can have a big presence there, it will speak volumes again, because like Josh said, everybody seeks out the Beverly Hills office and it's in our backyard. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be there. But $1,300,
Yeah.
it's well
But
worth
guys,
it.
if you can afford to go, absolutely. I'm telling you, if you're committed to your business, and you can afford to go, I promise you, it will be a tremendously positive and worthwhile experience. You get a return on your investment, for sure. Any questions? Okay. Is it trees?
Do I play the video or?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm talking too much. Hopefully it plays for our internet. Hey guys, I'm here with Letrice. Letrice is an inspiration to me. Brandon, do you want to share with us? I want to get a little perspective on the market.
Market, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can come up here if you want.
When Josh was talking about the numbers in December, you were just above the threshold. That's a big deal being above the threshold because most companies were way below the threshold in December. With Fidelity being the largest title company in all of LA County, when we're 40% down, we're feeling it. So when you're just above that threshold, that says a lot about what you guys are doing productivity wise. So we, it started last year, second half, we kind of just been watching the market, adapt in different ways, but us being here, I'm here, I'm not in Chatsworth, I'm not in Santa Clarita, I'm not in other parts of LA County where I have a lot of other reps. They were experiencing, the market changes way before us. So we're still in a good position is kind of the point I want to bring up. And yesterday was our highest open order count that we've seen in about 3 weeks. So that was very promising. Last week, I almost felt really included last week. It was just like getting back to work. This week, first thing Monday, we haven't been as busy like that in a long time. So everyone at my office is excited. Every price point. So we saw high end, we saw, below $1 million. So the rates, and I'm not the mortgage, professional, but I've been around long enough to see what's happening with these rates. People are finally gotten used to it. And so any little adjustment down is a more big deal than it was when our rates were so low. It went from 3 to 2.8. So if it goes from 6 to low 6, that's a big deal. So as a whole, our company that we have our own outlooks, just like Josh does his leadership meetings, what to expect for 2023, how are we gonna game plan, what do you expect? Our outlook is by May or June, the rates should basically start to settle in the 5s. So that's gonna be like the new 3s, right? So people are just gonna jump in. People are gonna take full advantage now that they know the real impact their rates have on their buying power. So think about like the opportunity you have now with buyers who may have that 6-ish rate. Like they're still gonna be ahead if they wanna buy now of that wave that will come once the rates go down. So whether it's May or June or maybe before, once it happens, it's gonna be like a mad rush in. So if you have those buyers now, just talk to them, get in now, refi later. And it's still low now compared to last year when it was at 7s and 8s. So it's all perspective. But that's what we expect to be a real surge. And then yesterday was super promising. So I just feel like at the end of the day, there's still going to be a lot of sales in LA with supply and demand and shortage of inventory here. So use that to your advantage. We're not anywhere else. We're in the LA bubble. So really just focus on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I want to, before I introduce our featured guest. Oh, Michael, sorry.
So there's a lot of.
You really are rusty.
Right.
You really are rusty.
I know.
This has to do with risk litigation. So 2023 is going to be the year we have released. I think I'm talking.
Yeah.
It's 2023 is going to be the year that we have the least amount of risk management calls to our lawyers, hopefully. But in any case, so next week during the broker meeting, I'll discuss more in depth the new forms. The RPA had some changes on it. There's a buyer counter offer has some changes, and so, and then there's totally new forms. I want you to make sure if you're taking a listing that has a solar panels on it, there's a new solar advisory and questionnaire that you're supposed to get the seller to sign, fill out when you take the listing, because this way they can start on the process. So many times last year, we had problems with deals going to close, and there's solar, and they started the process late. Escrow can't, title can't close till they figure out what's going on. You don't want that to be held up. So this new solar advisory questionnaire is supposed to aid in helping that. The buyer representation agreement, get that signed. It's it's replacing the three that were originally there. Now there's only one form. It starts off as a default non-exclusive. So if you have buyers that are hesitant about signing something, the defaults of it is a non-exclusive. Of course, you want to make it, you put it in where they're obligating you to pay you a commission, but we'll go into detail with that, all that is. And another thing I'll just do quickly is on leases. So they don't talk about, there's no more landlord mentioned on the leases. It's now RPO. It's residential property owner, or rental property owner. So any place where you saw landlord on leases, lease agreements, it's now RPO. So don't get confused.
Do we still call them tenants, or are they?
But that's confusing, because the first time I saw it, I'm like, RPO, everything is within RPO. So now it's the rental property owner. Anyway.
There's some political correctness there.
Yes.
Probably.
Right. Well, no, because this way, because a lot of times the reason they did it was you have property managers or agents, brokers that could sign agreements on behalf of the RPO. So they wanted it just clarified in that. So I don't think it was for any reasons, but next week I'll go into detail more. I did send out a link before the holidays of the new forms, and they went over it more in detail. It's still up there. You could look at that and then next week. So, all right.
Cool.
Before I bring our featured guest up, and we'll play the video in a minute, I wanted to explain to everyone, some of you may know, but we've launched this new initiative, I Am KWBH. And it was birthed from our featured guest, actually. She's the one who came up with the idea, and spent a bit of time with the ALC and the marketing team, sort of really thinking about how to launch that. And basically, the idea is we're going to highlight, the diversity and the transparency and all the values, the humility in our office, and for what it means something different for Jennifer, as it means for Jerry. What does it mean to be Keller Williams Beverly Hills to you, right? And we're featuring our top producers, and we're going to do it every 2 weeks. And we're going to do a personal feature on an agent, and part of that's going to be the ALC are going to be featured because they've contributed a ton to this office, and then other agents that I choose. And eventually we'll get around to a lot of people, but we're really excited about that. That part of the idea is to really, again, highlight what makes this office unique, and that is by definition unique to each person, right? And it's just about recognition. It's all about the people. It's all about you guys. And we want to give you a platform and a voice to tell your peers and the public what it is for you to be part of Keller Williams Beverly Hills. And we're really excited about that. We're hoping everyone sort of chimes in on social media and we'll get more purposeful about it. And we really want to boost that hashtag. We'll probably get some shirts I'm going to put it out there for family reunion. I am KWBH. It is Beverly Hills, guys, and we're doing amazing things. And I think we need to collectively and individually tell that story more readily to our peers. Look, at the end of the day, what drives profitability in this office is the agents. We have a cap commission structure model, and the more agents we have, the more profitable typically we are. The number one indicator of profitability is agent count in Keller Williams, period. So, and of course, the right people, the right culture. So that's the initiative. We're really excited about it. We hope everyone really like already my first post. And obviously it'll take time to build that brand by definition, but with that level of consistency and us really collectively supporting it, I'm really, really inspired and excited about it. So
We can probably sell those t-shirts, maybe not this year, but next year, Family Beauty.
yeah,
It'll be a hot item.
Yeah.
to sell.
yeah. And we should, maybe Veronica will kill me, but we should get some shirts made, because when I say she'll kill me, because she's always watching every dime, which is her job, and I appreciate that. But I really want to push that, and I'm really excited about it. So,
Do you need a t-shirt?
what's that?
Do you need a
Maybe,
t-shirt?
yeah, okay, okay. So with that said, do you want to play this video real quick? So many of you have seen this, and then I'll introduce Letrice. And everyone else she impacts. She's such a leader that.
Yeah, you want one?
Yeah, I don't think it's, Letrice, do you want to sit? Stand? Okay. Hey guys, I'm Letrice. Letrice is an inspiration to me and everyone else she impacts. She's such a leader that leads by example and has the courage to step into uncertainty and make it happen. Letrice is part of our board of directors and is building a world-class team. Letrice, what does it mean for you to be part of Keller Williams Beverly Hills?
It absolutely means everything. Keller Williams Beverly Hills is a leadership incubator, and in the time that I've joined, I believe that that rings true. I'm taking my business to the next level in 2023, and it's because of this environment.
Love it. So that's a little, and if you guys have on Instagram, definitely chime in. So many of you, I'll do a little quick intro. Many of you know Letrice, some may not. Letrice has been here for how long now?
Hi, dropshippers. It's time to focus on what you do best. So go to wix.com/
Right now. So Letrice has been here less than a year and a half. How long in the business? 3 years in the business. On our agent leadership council, closed 26 deals. 27 deals. Okay. Just engaged, huge impact, always pours into others, just a natural leader. And I recognize that when I was, before she even actually joined here, there were some trials and tribulations we went through together, and that told me a lot about her and her character. And she ended up being here, which I'm extremely grateful for. I hope she feels the same. And she's just made a huge impact very, very early on, and continues to create that level of impact and enhance and elevate that level of impact, starting to build her team. And she was the one who came up with that idea. And even independent of that, Letrice is just an inspiration to me and many others. So with that said, thank you for being here. So maybe a little bit just on your background and why you got into real estate, what you're doing prior, and then I'll sort of dig into the business a little bit more.
Okay, all right, sure. So, hey, oh, hey.
Hey.
Oh my God. Hey, oh, hey. Prior to getting into real estate, I was working in project management. I worked in gas and electric, and then I finished, the last position I held was in IT project management. I worked for Dine Equity, which is the parent company for Applebee's and IHOP. We were responsible for rolling out all of the technology that you see in the restaurants, like tabletop devices, from Wi-Fi to, those are all projects that I would manage.
We could use some help on Wi-Fi.
And so I wanted to get into I always wanted to get into real estate, but I was afraid of not passing the exam. Oh, I'm not that great at math. I don't know if I'll do well. Funny thing is, I didn't even have one math question on my exam. So that just goes to show you how we can keep, like, fear can keep us from living our ultimate lives.
Stories we tell ourselves.
Right. It's like the narrative. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was the third person to finish. So then I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't pass because everyone else was like 50 people in there and I was the third person. But I passed the first time. And I was really committed to just locking in and doing it at a high level. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I sat in a lot of team meetings with Keller Williams in Rancho. And I would listen to agents say, I don't like door knocking. I don't like cold calling. I don't like doing open houses. I said, oh, that's why they're in my business. I'm gonna do everything they don't want to do. And that's the mindset that I have adopted.
Yeah. it's embrace fear and let it propel your growth. It's one of my affirmations, right? And most people just don't have the courage to do that. And I've watched Letrice do that, and that's why she is where she is, you know? So tell us a little bit about, you know, why did you come here? You left Rancho, like, give us a little bit of the goal and the vision, and then I'm gonna dig deeper into that.
So I left Rancho and then I went to another office that was in Phillips Ranch. And I left that office because the team lead went over there. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll go over there and join them. And I did great. It was a pretty good experience until the end, and it wasn't. And so then I won't go into the details of that, but Josh, I actually reached out to Josh because I saw Nikki from the Renault group here, and I thought, oh, wow, a woman of color in luxury, selling houses, doing business at a high level, maybe it's possible for me too. And so she said, well, you should come and you should interview with Rod Watson, who was her team lead at the time. He's no longer with us. And then I interviewed with Rod, and then he said, you should interview with Josh. And then I interviewed with Josh. Once I got on Josh's radar, he was like, you're not going anywhere. Like, in a very nice way, you know, he's very gracious. And so I wanted to come here because honestly, I wanted to see if as a Black woman, I could thrive in the luxury space. That's just the God's honest truth. But after having multiple conversations with Josh and Paul, but Josh mainly, I thought, wow, what an amazing leader here in this office. Like, he says what he means what he says, he's gonna follow up, he's gonna call, he's gonna check in. Like, he's all about it, right?
For those that are coachable, I'll just have to say that. And I recognize that Letrice, because I don't pour into people that are not coachable, which means curious and a willingness to take action.
Yeah, so
Because that's an opportunity cost of saying no to them allows me to say yes to people like Letrice, right? So go ahead.
So I just thought it would be great to be in this environment because I believe that in order to take myself to the next level, I need to be around people that are already operating in the headspace, right? Because a lot of it's the mentality and the mindset. It's not just, okay, you're in Beverly Hills, because you could be here and not sell a house at all, right? But it's the mindset. And I love the mindset sessions. I love the flow coaching. I love like everything that he's about. He kind of embodies what it takes to do your business at a high level. You can't have that negativity or, you know, being doubtful. So I have this thing where I'm like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, but I do it anyway. So I do it scared. And that's kind of a mentality that I've adopted since being in this industry.
Love it. So tell us, because I meet with people all the time, including yesterday, of people that want to break into a new market, particularly a new luxury market, a new competitive market. Tell us what you've learned since being here. I know that's a broad question. Like, what are a couple of like the key things that you feel like have led to your, because you've now done some pretty big deals.
Yeah.
What are the things you would impart on the rest of this group that have been keys to success for you? And maybe a couple things that you said, hey, didn't really work.
Well, first off, just being in the room doesn't get your foot in the door, right? You have to be willing to do work. You have to be willing to show up. You have to be willing to know the information, like know your stuff. So if you're saying I want to tap into a certain market, it's not just, oh, I'm with Keller Williams Beverly Hills. But if you're saying I want to focus on a hyper local market, I need to know the data. How many days on market are the properties sitting? What's the average sell price? Just you need to know. You need to know the agents in the area because a lot of business in the luxury space is not done through the MLS. It's done off market.
That's a great point of distinction. It's much more relational, I think.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, in higher price point areas.
It is. And then the other thing I think that I learned is that it's expensive to market luxury property. So wanting to do it, you have to have the budget and the financial resources to make sure that you can properly market the property, because you cannot just,
put it on
print out some
MLS.
flyers and take pictures with your iPhone and, change the setting and think that that's going to get the job done. And I think that having the relationships here in this office helps the conversation, because when you have a property that's not moving, that's listed at a high price, you have to get on the phone and call people and say, hey, who do you know? Who's in your buyer pool? Who's in your client pool? Who would be interested in? And those things you learn by just sitting in the room with other agents that are already doing it at a high level.
Love it. Tell us about a little bit of your schedule, your What do you do on a consistent basis? What are your priorities as a business owner in the real estate world?
I'm up at 4 a.m. every morning. Well, between 3:50 and 4 a.m.
Okay, and you're a mother of
6.
6 children, a 6-year-old?
So yeah, I have 6. But I'm up early.
You gotta get up early.
That's your only quiet.
She has to.
Sorry, this mint is really good and easy. I want to have fresh. So yeah, I get up at 4 every morning. I do my miracle mornings. I sit and have my visualization. I sit in silence. I do my affirmations. I try to exercise, not as consistent with that. I read every day. So my goal this year is to read 50 books, a book a week, and then I'm gonna be done.
How do you choose the books?
So when I meet with other agents, I always somehow slip in the conversation, what are you reading? Then I make a mental note of it and I like jot it on a piece of paper and I have a running list in my desk of all the books. And then I just select randomly from that list of what I'm going to read next.
Let me ask you this, when you say you meet with other agents, elaborate on that. Who are these other agents you're referring to?
Like Lisa, I was trying to get in with him forever because he's so busy.
So you're looking purposely for top producing agents with a lot of experience and proactively reaching out to them to sort of have conversations and learn from them.
Absolutely. So
So I gotta emphasize that. I'd say that to people all the time, because honestly, that's 100% what I would be doing. But how many people actually do that and have the courage to do that? And I will tell you, it will be reciprocated here if you do it, but you gotta take the initiative.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's again what Letrice does. Go
And
ahead.
I would also have Letrice hopefully tell us how else you meet other agents, because you are also, and I know this, but share with the room, involved with the Women's Council. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
talk about that too.
Okay, so I'll touch on the Lisa piece. So when I saw that he was like $1 million earner, I was like, I need to know what his secret sauce is, right? So I just kept asking, like, hey, can you go to coffee? Hey, can you go to tea? Hey, can you? And he was just busy, and obviously he's working, right? So I heard him say that he does broker caravan. He's like, he's pretty committed to doing broker caravan. So I changed up the conversation. I was like, oh, can I go with you to broker caravan? Immediately, he's like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And then we got it on calendar, and I went with him, and just like sitting in the car with him and listening to him talk, I got an opportunity to meet the Altman brothers. I had met them before, but he knows them on like a personal level, right? And so I was listening to him talk about the things that he does and his habits. He gets up early. He bikes 37 miles a day in the Malibu like hills or something like that. He's like a beast. He said that it's about relationships, going to the open houses, talking to the assistants, forming the relationships with the agents, knowing what the inventory is on market. So those are some of his nuggets. And of course, I just put them in my back pocket. And then I also knew that I wanted to get into leadership when I first started, but I knew that in order for me to get into leadership, I needed to master my craft first. So I did not sign up for like participating in anything other than just going to training, learning my craft, selling houses. Once I felt like I had enough of that under my belt, then I first sought out to be on the ALC here. And they were pretty receptive. And so I'm on the ALC here. And then I got involved with NARAB, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. It is the oldest Black professional organization in the US. We were formed 75 years ago. And there was a time where agents that were African-American could not hold the designation of realtor. So they came up with Realtice. And so I'm a Realtice and I'm also a realtor. And I sit on the board of directors for that, for the local chapter, with aspirations to go to the national level eventually. And I also sit on the board for the Women's Council of Realtors, Foothill West Division. And I am the first vice president for that organization.
What does leadership do for you, mean for you, why?
It gives me the ability to show other people that you belong in the space and that you can do it too. I want to encourage other people, and not just people of color, but anybody, honestly, because you can be a mom, you can be a wife, you can be African-American, you can be Chinese American, you can be anything and maybe have have some apprehension about, do I really belong in this space? Because I came from this other background, or because I did this, or because I did that. And the reality is, it's what you make it. It's what you decide you want it to be. And you just have to do the work. I think that a lot of people think, oh, you made it overnight, but I didn't. Like, I really have put in the work. You can't just show up and say, oh, I'm here and I'm gonna sell houses because I look nice and I have nice clothes on. It doesn't work like that. You really have to do the work, and there's no shortcut to success.
It's preparation, guys, pure and simple. And it is playing the long game, because what you see right now is a product of what Letrice has done over the last several decades, right? That's, I think, one of the big messages. And you can, and again, making the most with what you have, right? So, she's got a lot of things in her favor, and many that probably are not, but she's willing to take what she has, make the most of it, and become whatever she's committed to being, right? And that's what, and it's leading by example, right? That's what Letrice is all about, right? Lead by example, to show people the possibility. That's part of like what environment matters means to me. It's like, hey, surround yourself with really talented people, and you can see possibilities that you perhaps would not have been able to see on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I get a lot of agents that reach out to me from this office and from other offices as well. KW, non-KW, and they ask like, well, how are you doing this? And how are you doing that? And I think that I believe that if you're just willing to offer an encouraging word, you just never know that seed that you plant, how that will flourish and bloom in that person, right? And all of us have our own individual businesses, and there's enough real estate to go around like multiple times. Well, inventory is kind of low right now, but I'm just saying there's enough for us. And so I really believe that there's enough sun for all of us to shine. And so I'm willing to share with you what I do, because a lot of the time you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It takes, right, just being honest.
Yeah, that's the reality. We always say like people are afraid to share because they're going to steal my secret. The reality is 1% of the people won't even attempt to try what you told them. I mean, that's just the truth. And even if they do, they're not going to do it the same way you do it. So
Right.
like this whole idea around, especially in our business, like I'm not going to share because they're going to steal my secret. Paul and I laughed our heads off around that, because again, tiny fraction we've been attempted, and those that even attempt will do it differently than you do.
100%, because everybody has their genius level of talent, right? I think that God gives us all our genius measure of talent. And that talent is for you, it's for your lane, it's what you're purposed to be. So no one can take it from you. So if you're meant to be an amazing realtor and operate at a high level, then you're going to do that. You just have to be committed to it. And I think that a lot of people stop before they get there, because they're like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I will tell you that in August of 2021, I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't really for me. Because I wasn't selling anything, I wasn't moving, it just wasn't happening the way that I thought it was gonna happen. I went to all the trainings, I showed up, I door knocked, I cold called, people hung up in my face, they cussed me out. I was like, this is terrible, maybe I'm not meant to be a realtor. Had I given up in that moment, I wouldn't be here today. And I think about that because the Langley Stone Group is my company, and it was just I remember scribbling it in a book like 4 years ago. So it's really wild to me that, people talk about manifestation. And so I'm really big on manifestation and visualization, because I truly believe you have to see it. Things happen twice, once in your mind and then they physically happen. But you have to believe it, and you have to move in the direction as though it's happening already, as opposed to moving in doubt, because that's not serving our higher selves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We said in flow coaching, have faith, have it, or pray and move your feet. In other words, like she had the vision and then she did something about it, right? You can have the vision all day. If you don't get up and do anything about it, nothing's going to happen.
Right. Because faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of principles, whether you're a Christian or not, that are in the Bible that are just principles or something that don't change. And so the reality is, if you are willing to operate in faith and move forward in the direction that, a lot of people get into real estate and they say they're coming from another industry, they're stay-at-home moms or whatever's going on. And it's like, it can be overwhelming to enter into this space, because you see a lot of people doing at a high level, but what you don't see is maybe the 15 years of them working their asses off to get to that high level. And so don't compare your today to what everyone else is doing, because everyone's story is so different and it's so unique. And I think we need to be more conscientious of extending grace to ourselves as well as to others.
Yeah. And look, the other thing, as Letrice was saying, that if you don't question yourself, everyone, I question myself every day about my own validity, and I'm do things at a pretty high level. So know that that's natural, and just keep persevering. I think that's the key, because you question yourself, you have doubt. I have doubt. I question myself all the time. The best, if they're humble, which I'm a huge believer in being humble, because it keeps you hungry to continue to forge forward. If you don't, that's natural. So when you do that, recognize that you're not the only one, and just keep forging forward. And that's obviously what Letrice exemplified, for sure. So finish that part, because I cut you off, on like what the rest of like your day looks. Up at 4 a.m.
So up at 4 a.m., I do the Miracle Morning. It's a book. You guys can check it out if you want.
Hal Rod.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hal Rod. So I do that, and then I kind of check my emails, but then I have my calendar. Like I usually have like coaching clients. I mentor people here in this office. I coach a boutique brokerage that is outside of KW. Actually 2 of them. And so I do some of the coaching calls. Mondays and Fridays are my administrative days.
And by the way, the teacher learns the most.
Yeah.
So when you coach, I think a lot of people don't get that, and you teach, you got to know your shit, excuse my French. So therefore, that helps you raise your own game.
It does. It absolutely does. And then I get to encourage people. I find that I'm really passionate about that. So it just kind of makes my day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I do broker caravan on Tuesdays here in the Beverly, like in the LA area. Thursdays, I do it in the Pasadena area or the San Gabriel Valley area. And then I cold call and I door knock. It depends. Like I'm starting to get away from door knocking consistently, like Mondays and Fridays, but it's on my calendar to door knock 3 hours a day. And the reason why is because I just am building a team. So I'm starting to shift more into kind of training them, coaching them, showing them the ropes, and then, eventually scaling, building even a bigger team. But still, it's the basics of what all needs to happen. And I try to end my day by 7 o'clock. Does not always happen. I do have a break in there from the time that I pick up the kids at 3, from 3 to 5. I kind of lock in and I'm with them. And then dinner's already done. And then I kind of pick back up and do consultations. And last night I finished at 8, but
So very proactive, scheduled. I think is that correct? I mean,
yeah.
Intentional, like not reactive, which quite
Yeah.
frankly, way too many people are in this business.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, my word is intentional. So every year I choose a word that I try to really focus on. How am I going to live this year? What am I going to do? Last year was thrive. This year is intentional. I do a vision board. I'm really big on that, like, guys. I don't know if I can't stress that enough. I think that you really need to think about, like, where do you see yourself? And I always started at 5 years. So where I want to be in 5 years, and then I work my plan backwards. It really does work.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Oh, I'm gonna be I want to have my own brokerage. So that's I'm working on my broker's license. So I'm also a broker in North Carolina, and I just submitted all my packet for the broker's license here in California and waiting to take the exam. So I'll be a broker here in California, but I'll stay with KW until I'm ready to make that transition.
Mark the date, January 10th, 2025.
Josh is like, shit, boy.
We'll have that comment, and I'll impress upon her that she can actually do that here much more purposely. And intentionally.
Yes.
Yes, yes, intentionally. It's gotta be in her best interest. And I'll show her. Yep, yep. It's very glorious to be a broker, believe me. And the reality is often something very different. But anyway, that's the story for another day. Yeah, yeah.
Different conversation.
Yes, yeah. So I'm gonna ask one more question, I'm gonna turn it over to these guys. What do you, like, if you had to say, like, for a new agent, because there are a handful of them here for sure, what do you think, like, you've touched on a lot of things, but if you could distill it into like 3 things that you say you would prioritize, what would those 3 things be?
Know your contracts, know your market, and don't be afraid to be told no. Those are the 3 things. Because I think that if you know your contracts, then you have more confidence when you enter a room.
That's
right?
big, guys. That sounds so simple. And most of it is simple, but not necessarily easy. So
Yeah, and I coach a lot of people that just don't know the contract. It's like, well, I thought I was submitting this, and I'm like, did you read the contract? Oh, well, no, I prepared it and I had them sign it. Well, that's a mistake because you're a fiduciary to your clients, and so you should read whatever you're having them sign and whatever. Yes.
and the confidence, I got just the second part.
Yeah.
That when you walk in a room, you're confident. it's a game changer relative to, if you're not, people sense and feel that, they're not gonna do business with you.
I mean, what Letrice is saying about reading and knowing your contracts, I mean, I say that in the Tuesday meetings for commercial every time, every week. Michael Rosales is always a big proponent. I mean, he mentioned today about get the buyer representation agreement signed. That all came from somebody that did not read the contract, did not know the contract, thought they did something, just like you had said, Letrice, and they ended up screwing themselves out of $500,000 commission. So if you don't know how to, then you need to read it. And Letrice is 1000% right. You need to read every single word, every single paragraph, every single page of every contract that you think you're going to use. And so if you're a residential agent, that's going to be the RLA, and that's going to be the RPA, that's sellers and buyers. Everything else you need to read as well, but start at least with those two.
And give a plug for Kristen in the class she teaches. Phenomenal. So for any, it doesn't need to be a new agent. And just as another quick, we're totally redoing the whole new agent.
See, look, we
It's 100% what she said. It's very important, and this came up in the broker call that I'm on, that, you know, when you're submitting an RPA, if you're a buyer's agent, do not leave things blank. So many times people leave like the broker part, the agent part. Are you representing the seller, the buyer? It shows the duty of care that you're exhibiting to your client. And if you're leaving things blank, the interest rate on a purchase agreement, it's there for a reason. Fill it out. The points, fill it out. Don't leave it blank. If you're a listing agent, you receive an offer that has these things blank. First of all, you're going to look at what is this dumbass doing, you know, or, you know, you make sure you want to counter those stuff in. But
And if you have
Very
questions,
important.
don't be afraid to ask for help, guys.
no, it's super important. Read the contracts. It's, I mean, I think the California bar was asleep when they started allowing realtors to just write contracts, because that's what basically we're doing. But we've been given this responsibility, and you have to, you know, we're not giving legal advice.
Yeah, many other states, guys.
Yeah, you need lawyers
Yeah.
to do what we're doing. So, you know, you have to understand what you're doing. It's complicated, but CAR and Zip Forms made it, you know, as easy as possible for, you know, I think the old timers, and I'm not looking at anybody specific, but they used to say the purchase agreement was, they remember when it was like on the one page. One page.
Yeah.
And now it's what, 16 pages?
One page.
Yeah. You know, and it's there for a reason, so you gotta know, you know, they're changing and updating all the time, so.
Yeah.
I-
You got Michael right out of the seat.
Ran over here.
So yeah, I think that's really important. I also think that you just can't be afraid to be told no, like, it's just gonna happen, and that's just what it is.
It's not personal.
It's not, and there's a book called The Four Agreements. Read it, it'll change how you see things. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like my 2 cents on what I think is important.
Questions, I know. Hi, ladies first, then we'll go Jeff. Hi.
So it's a complex question, but I'll try and go fast. So I've wondered this about you for a while. I've just been like, what does her lead generation look like? So what I heard was cold calling and door knocking. Is that the bulk of it?
Yeah.
And very purposeful social media.
Okay, so what does it sound? Do they sound different? I'm assuming you're calling expired or?
I call everyone. I call everyone. And you just kind of get comfortable. I've been all kinds of things that happen.
I'm
So
sure.
a lot of my business comes from social media. So I will say probably the bulk of my business, maybe like 90% of my business.
Elaborate just to touch on what that means. Like, what do you do on social media and how is it coming? to you? So-
I post, I go and I open up the algorithm. I post 5 words or more on 5 new people that are in my feed that I don't see in my feed, but that are in my friends group. And then I go to them and I go to like a post and I type 5 words or more 5 days a week. And then, so that opens it up to 100 new people a month, basically. It's 25 new people a week, 100 people a month. Eventually you get like, people start to see like, oh, she's doing this and she's doing that. And most of my business comes from people calling or reaching out on social media.
What are you calling key numbers? I think you mentioned before.
$1,000 a month.
That's
reasonable. $1,000 a month.
And to elaborate on the social, it's not
Ben, how
just.
many doors do you knock on? Sorry, I can't help this. Ben's an expert.
goal's 100 a day, so 2,000 a month.
And that's the bread and butter of his business, and these guys do a couple $1 million of gross commission, so.
Where are you getting the 5 names a day for social media? Where's that coming
I sit in a lot of masterminds and I talk to a lot of people that are doing business at a high level, and I'm trying to remember her name.
You should go door knock with Ben and Zach.
I want to,
All right.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
down for that for
Yeah.
sure. Young lady up north, Rachel Adams Lee.
Yeah.
I've sat in her trainings before. She's really a beast on social media, and she's the one that said the 555 rule. And so I follow it. It works. It makes sense. I get more engagement. So yeah.
And that's why I said I wanted to you to.
I can
elaborate
find
on
more
social.
out. Rachel Adams, like Serena, I'm Serena. Latrice can tell us, Serena, maybe you can follow it and put that out there.
You don't just like or thumbs up or love something, you gotta actually engage, and that's where the 5 of it is 5 words for these
Right.
people.
It's 5 words or more commenting on a post of people that don't show up in your feed like right now. So if you notice, like your algorithm only shows about 7 to 10% of the friends group. You may have like 2,400 people following you, but a very small percentage is actually coming up in your feed all the time. And it's usually because those are the people that you're engaging with, right? So if you want to change that narrative, you really want to reach more people. First, you can change the your Instagram to a creator account or a professional account so that you can see the professional dashboard.
Yeah.
I was just looking at mine this morning, and in the last 30 days, it says that I've engaged with 18,000 people. So that means I've had reaches, I've had touches, I've had people watch my reels, various things. The other thing you can do is start to use reels and use the trending sounds. If you open up your IG and you go under like notifications, it'll tell you what the trending sounds are. And if you use those sounds, then you're more than likely gonna get more engagement. On one of I did a Dave Ramsey trending sound about, buying real estate now, and I got over 17,000 views on that reel, right? And so it's really just about
Intentional. That's what it's about, right? That's our word, right? I mean, and the effort to go above and beyond what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Like how many people are commenting and engaging as opposed to like and blah, 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 the simple is, what do I say to Max? Like, oh, my son, it's like hard now is easy later. I mean, you gotta do the hard stuff, guys, or the harder that other people just are not willing to do.
Trace, where are you calling your inspired leads from? They're from the MLS?
So I use this, so I went to Bold. So I did do Bold. I don't know if you guys have an opportunity, you know what Bold is. I think Bold is an amazing investment.
We gotta get bold in the spring.
An absolutely amazing investment. And I'm gonna answer your question, but a lot of times I hear new agents say that's expensive, costs a lot, right? But it's an investment. I really want you to change the language that we use because there's a cost to do business, right? But the thing is, if you make that investment in yourself, you don't know the return, the ROI on that investment is exponential.
How many times have you heard that? I say that like to almost everyone I meet with.
But here's the thing, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it being expensive when you come from another industry and when you come from a different life. I remember having $5 in my pocket, like, okay, I gotta get to work. Today's Tuesday. I'm gonna have to get to work till Friday. How can I make this work? I remember that. So please don't think that, today I'm doing much better, thank God, but I understand having that mindset because I used to be that person. I'm not gonna pay for a coach. I'm not gonna do, but it cuts the timeline in half, maybe like a fraction. So I made that investment in myself. There's certain things I just don't cut corners on. And I have a business coach. I believe in going to like the family reunion conference. So if I can impress upon you,
It's an abundance
family
mindset.
reunion was an amazing experience last year. Amazing. I've done business from just going to that conference and having conversations with agents across the nation. I'm a referral partner for multiple agents as a result of me just being in the room. The information that I learned, I was like, oh, wow. And I think the other thing is it showed me the possibility of
You
what
literally just said everything.
could be available to me as a single mom of 6, right? I'm like, wow, I could do this. Because you see some really high level agents that are doing it, like, it's crazy. So I think it's really good. It's good for your mindset too. I didn't mean to but I'm just saying.
No, I was applauding, like, I love it, because you weren't here, and you like literally, but you validated, and comes a lot more coming from you than it does from me, the guy who's like towing the party line, so to speak, you know? Jeff, yeah.
So you said, I think, August 2021, you almost gave up. What happened as far as what did you do differently? And what do you think worked?
I got a phone call like 5 minutes after I broke down crying. I called my friends and they were all in the group call and they were like, it's gonna be fine, you're gonna be okay. I was like, I can't do this lady just cussed me out. And
So it was a bad
it was a bad, like, just, it was a
culmination of that,
multiple
yeah.
days of just hanging up in my face, cussing me out, and it just kind of got to me. And I got a phone call like 7 minutes later and they were like, hey, I want to buy a house, can you help me? I saw your post on social media. That was confirmation. So I believe, I'm a firm believer, like I love the Lord, like beyond, okay? And so I can be super dope. And when I speak, he just listens. I'm like, God, he just works out and he does. I don't know how, he does. And so whatever it is that you believe in, higher power, universe, whatever you want to believe in, you just have to move with that confidence and not have the doubt.
And take action. I can't impress that. I mean, you know, that happens because Letrice makes it happen, you know, and that's the reality. You can't just sit back and like think the magic's gonna show up when you're putting no effort. Pray and move your feet, right? You know?
Thank you for sharing your story. Like it's been, I got a lot of work to do, Josh. So you ready?
That's the whole idea, right?
I also have I have one son and he does his job. Like he goes to school and he's got piano lessons. Like he bounces around, but he always does his job.
And I had a good fortune of meeting him.
Yeah, and I've met Max too, and today I got a glimpse of, like, he's on my phone, he's on my desk, and I looked over at him and I said, God, am I doing my job? I wonder what he thinks of me and how I'm doing. So I'd like to ask you, how do you think your kids see you, and is that a driver in what you do every day?
Okay, so yes, I would say, so my oldest is 23, okay? My youngest is 5.
Wow.
I believe that so I'm a firm believer, since I have young adult children and I have children, baby children, I'm a firm believer in our children don't do what we say, but they do what we do.
Yeah.
Right? And so once I realized that it's about my mindset and I really want to live a more abundant life, that's when I noticed that they started to live and walk in their purpose too. And what I mean by that is my son came to me, he's like, I want to go to college. Because at first he's like, I'm not going to college, I'm not doing that. Then my oldest son started a plumbing company. My other son just got accepted to Texas Southern University. And he also owns a barbering business. He said, he's like, Mom, I want to learn how to become a barber 2 years ago. I said, okay, go ahead and do it. I think it's amazing because I'm all about that entrepreneur life, right? So he said, I need to have 150 clients. So I need to have 100 clients in order to like live the life that I want. I said, okay, I think you can do it. So he did it in 9 months. He has a book of business of 150 clients that he consistently has. He makes a lot of money for a 20-year-old. And he decided, you know what, I think I want to go to college so that I can learn the business side of things because I want to expand this into something much bigger. And so he said, I'm gonna take a year off to build a business and then I'm gonna go to college and get my degree in business. And that's exactly what he did. And he tells me all the time, like, I've watched you come from nothing and build something amazing. So I think that my children, my son, my youngest son,
5-year-old.
Yeah, he's 5. He says he thinks I'm the best real estater in the my 7-year-old has gotten me clients. He's like, I've sold houses to his teachers. He's like, my mom's the best real estate agent.
Oh, that's great.
You know, so they inspire me, you know, and sometimes they tell me, Mom, you work too much, right? And then I have to explain to them, I'm working now so that we can live the life that we want. You like going to Hawaii, you like going here, you like going there, you like getting the, right? And they're like, well, yeah, go ahead and sell those houses. So, and my daughters are 14, or they just, one turned 15, the other one will be 15 soon. They want to start a business. So my daughter wants to get into day trading. At 14, I was not thinking about day trading at all. This is the mindset. So because I'm constantly listening to like podcasts, I'm reading books, I'm watching things on mindset, it kind of like by visualize, I'm sorry, I can't speak. My daughter does a vision board, the boys do a vision board, like what kind of grades do you want to get for the year? So it helps. It's like a whole family thing.
That's awesome. I'm very inspired. Last question, anybody? Jimmy?
No question, I just wanted to add, I had gone to bowls and Letrice was a part of my table for my team. And by just attending bowl, I was able to meet her. And ever since then, I feel like I relate a lot to her, and it's a blessing to be able to give her a call at any time. So show some love. So she
Same vein, it's like, I'm a big believer you attract what you put out there. And like, I see the gravitational pull that you have towards so many people because of who you are and you put out there. Like even the post, like I look at the comments and I notice the people and I know who he's like, and it's inspiring. And that's a function of what you put out there. You know, and I just encourage, we all have that opportunity if we choose to exercise it. So you're awesome. Thank you very much. Right.
You were
Letrice,
terrific.
thank you
for sharing
all your
wisdom
Oh, yeah, you were great.
I thought of
She's gonna be a hard
Oh,
act.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and